Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to If Data Could Talk, the Iron Viz season. I'm here with Keshia Rose. I'm Andy Cotgreave, technical evangelist at Tableau and co-host of Iron Viz. Keshia.
Hey, Andy. Doing well over here. I'm excited to talk to Lisa. Let's go.
Very good. Well, it's great to be back with you, Keshia. And today, who are we joined by, Keshia? Who's with us today?
None other than the Iron Viz winner, our big champion, Lisa Trescott.
Welcome to the show,
Hi,
Lisa.
good morning.
Yeah, so Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a research analyst at a community college here in California. I've been using Tableau for 4-ish years, but then I just started in the data fam earlier this year. So I started doing the community projects and haven't looked back.
You haven't looked back. In fact, yeah, congratulations. How's it been this week since winning Iron Viz? What's it been like?
It's been a little surreal and pretty overwhelming. This wasn't ever my expectation. I never thought that this would happen. And so it's just been a lot to kind of digest and process.
Yeah, well, absolute congratulations. So we're really looking forward to this episode. So what we're going to do for this episode is watch your build with you. And so you can tell us about the decisions, the challenges, how you explored the data and some of the things you found. Keshia and I are going to ask questions, and everybody watching, I hope you get something great out of this, because we love finding out what was going on in Lisa's brain. Lisa, are you ready to rewatch your build?
I'm ready.
All right, let's press play. Here we go. So there we go. So here you go. So tell us, how did you find the story in this data set? Was the data set pretty overwhelming?
It was very overwhelming. So it was like 200 million rows of data, and it was 5 different data sets. So it was a lot of data to kind of go through and mine and analyze. But when I first got it, I kind of just went through and made a list of all of the kind of questions that I thought I could answer through this data to kind of see what was interesting to me, what my supervisor or Esther might find interesting as well, and kind of went from there to kind of weed it down and the ultimate story that I did.
Yeah, and did you come across the story through the exploration, or did you try and sort of a little bit know the story you might want to tell?
No, I had no idea. So I actually had a completely different story. I threw everything out about a week and a half before the build. So I had a completely different direction. I was looking at more of a country level story, where I was looking at the different genres that were being Shazammed across countries, because I found there were only 5 that Shazammed a different genre other than pop. It was a very pop-dominated world. But then as I started kind of building out some of the supplemental charts and digging in a little deeper, I realized that my analysis didn't make a lot of sense, because we had artist level data, and then I was trying to tell this country level story. So it just wasn't syncing up or making sense the way I wanted it to. So I threw it out and decided to start over. And I kind of went about, I didn't learn my lesson. I kept looking at city level stuff. I thought, okay, well, maybe I could find, cities that were kind of hotbeds for, finding breakout artists before the rest of the world did. And that's kind of when I stumbled on the story that I ended up telling, which was identifying these 3 artists, having their breakout years, and then telling each of their stories.
Yeah, that's great. So did you stumble? Why was it these 3? Did that story emerge from the data?
Yes,
that's amazing.
It was based off this chart that you're seeing right now, which is the CPP rank, which is the chart way of ranking all of the artists kind of over time. And so we had the top 2,000 artists. There was like 100 different artists from 20 different countries, and we had their ranks over a certain period of time. And so I looked to see who kind of started out towards the bottom. And so I kind of cut that off at 1,000, because that's where I started to see kind of their global recognition start to kind of taper out. So there wasn't a lot of global Shazam hits that, if artists below 1,000. And to see, well, who really shot to the top of the charts, because it was pretty static at the top, right? It's the same 50 to 100 artists consistently. And so I was like, well, who really got up there and made it? And so that's kind of how I found them. There was one artist that I almost included instead. The Masked Wolf also had a pretty big breakout year, but then he was on a kind of steeper decline than the other 3 artists. So I ended up not focusing on him and just telling that I ended up with.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Gotcha. I'm curious to hear why you decided to focus in on only those 3. So you had found those 3, but you really decided to really tell their stories versus maybe comparing them to like just the general population. How did you decide to take that angle on these 3 artists?
I think I knew for Iron Viz, I needed to focus on a good story. And I felt like the narrower I could make the story, the better I could, which is why I ended up just doing the 3. And then, like I said before, I was looking at kind of the hotbed cities at first. And I was looking at Giveon's song, which was that Heartbreak Anniversary, which was a whole year old. And then all of a sudden it was showing up on Shazam charts in Southeast Asia. And I was like, well, why would that be happening? That's like not the place that I would think that, who would catch on to him first. And that's when I found that story that I ultimately did about, that TikTok user who uploaded that video and there was a dance challenge. And I thought, well, that's interesting. That's a story that would hold my attention. And so I decided to really hone in and focus on those types of things.
I mean, it's such a classic story of the big opportunity of exploring with data, isn't it? And sometimes you don't know what you're going to find, and the data itself can reveal the story. And I think it's great seeing that story in Iron Viz through the years. So what we've seen in the last sort of 4 minutes is you've obviously set up a lot of formatting. You did some workbook level formatting. You've added in your color palettes. And then you've just added a cool little shape icon. We just went past that. Why did you not choose the default circle, Lisa? What were you trying to do to make this shape pop a little more?
So I think originally I was thinking that this would be a density map.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was doing it with the pages shelf, it didn't look right. And then I really liked the way, if you just use one color, right? Because using a density map, you have to use a kind of a gradient. And then you kind of lost that saturation of the color that represented each artist.
Yeah.
So I wanted a shape that kind of made it look kind of like a density map. And this shape is something that I found through Sarah Brattersby. She's the maps overlord on Twitter. She is the creator of this shape, and I really liked it. And so I went ahead and used it.
Just for those who don't know, Sarah, that's a Twitter handle, right? Maps Overlord. That's
yes.
It's not like, and she's in the research team at Tableau. She's excellent.
She's earned that title. She's amazing with maps.
She is. She is fantastic. Okay, so sorry, Keshia, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going back to that community piece. You mentioned that you're new to the Tableau community, even though you've been using Tableau for a little while. I'm curious, what brought you in? What started that connection?
So it was Real World Fake Data, which is a community project that Mark Bradbourne oversees.
Mm-hmm.
I had done some Makeover Mondays kind of behind the scenes before that. And then with Real World Fake Data, or RWFD, in order to submit it, I had to get a Twitter account. And I feel very reluctantly. I really didn't want to get another account. But I thought, you know what, okay, I'm going to do it. I'll, if this is the only way I can submit it, we'll go ahead and do it. And I was super scared, honestly, to even tweet out one of my first vids. It was really kind of a scary and intimidating experience, but I was like, just do it. And then, so that's kind of was my entry point. That's what started it all. And only good things have come since then. So it's been a really great experience.
Yeah, that's great. Just one thing you're doing here, I noticed just at that moment, is as you drag, little dialogue boxes are appearing. Can you explain, for those that don't know, there's a little trick about how to make the aggregation selection appear as you're dragging?
Yeah, so if you right click and drag instead of just your normal left click, you get that pop-up box when you drop the pill. So it saves you some right click, instead of dropping it, right clicking and then formatting it to get the aggregation you want, you can right click and you get the automatic pop-up. So in Iron Viz, it's all about the least amount of clicks you could possibly do. And so I found that to be a real big
yeah. But I find that right click drag really useful anyway. I mean, just even when building any viz, it's just like, I want to get this done as quick as I can.
Yeah, it's never something I really used before this. I knew about it, but I think, a lot of times when I'm building out things for work or even just for fun, I'm still exploring and trying to figure out what I'm going to show. So I hadn't really used much before this.
And now for those Mac users out there, I believe you can get the same action with, what is it, Option and click and drag, I think, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah. I love that. I know during recording Iron Viz, it's always great seeing these charts emerge, and they sort of go through these sort of arty moments as everything's on the Viz, and it's like, wow, that's really pretty. What's going on? And then the story emerges. So really enjoyed this section with these scatter plots being built, and then the mystery of what is going to happen with this chart. So I believe
what the heck is this?
Is this which chart are you building here? Which one's this?
So for the country level kind of dot charts, I didn't want to animate those with the pages shelf because I didn't want this big giant void in the middle of the dashboard. So I wanted a way to help orient the user to kind of see the progress of where we kind of were in the time lapse. And so I came up with this kind of moving progress bar instead of having the mark show up.
Yeah, I was nice.
Nice. So this is the global Shazam chart, which this one was probably the hardest chart to come up with. I struggled a lot with how to kind of visualize the songs at a global level. I knew I wanted to have that interactivity of the end user being able to play the song and actually hear, what people were listening to. And so I kind of struggled with this a lot, but ultimately kind of came up with this unit type chart.
Yeah, because I think that this one was this is an unusual chart, and certainly is one that it would take the audience. It takes the audience a little bit longer to pass to understand what it was showing. But for everybody who watched Iron Viz, you told the story. You didn't assume people would understand what the chart says, and so you have to take that time to step them through the chart, which shows that mastery of storytelling. Now you've also, as we'll see, and as we saw in the final, you chose dark backgrounds. So you're actually building white on white Vizes here. Did that make an extra challenge?
Yeah, it doesn't make for a great watch party, right? A bunch of white things, you can't tell what's happening. So again, with Iron Viz, it's all about the least amount of clicks you can do. I started doing it the first time, using kind of this grayish blue background color, and I had to go back and right click and format all of them and remove it. So I just figured if I can do it without seeing it, then it's less clicks. So went for it.
And what you couldn't see behind the scenes during the recording is it turned out Esther couldn't see your screen. Your supervisor couldn't see your screen, right?
That's correct. I didn't realize she couldn't see it. And there was one thing that I always forgot in our practice builds. And I remembered it in this. And I thought, Esther's going to be so proud. And she's going to be cheering me. And she didn't even see it. I didn't even know that I remembered to do it.
Lisa, I'm really curious if you could tell us about your process for designing this dashboard. Do you, do it all in Tableau? Do you use some other tools? I don't know, analog, pen, paper? What's that process like?
So for this one, I used Photoshop to do the background. I just learned how to use Photoshop over the summer. I took a class, so it was perfect time for that. And I did that because, I didn't want to use a bunch of text boxes because that would take forever to format in a 20-minute build. And so I did it in Photoshop. I also wanted to try to match the font of the Chartmetric logo. And so which isn't a web safe font, obviously. So I wanted to make sure that rendered properly. So I ended up building it out in Photoshop first. And then, sometimes I will use paper pencil to kind of just get an idea of what I want it to look like or how to show it. But sometimes it's a lot of just like an iterative process, or it's all kind of together where I'll build out charts and then think, oh, is this going to look okay on the dashboard? And then I might change them. And it's just a lot of back and forth.
And I really like how you have eliminated the need for a specific color legend here by using the text. What was your inspiration there, or how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, I don't know where I first saw this, but I've seen it all over Tableau Public, and I think it's a really neat way to just kind of embed your color legend without having to have a user go somewhere else. It's just part of the text. You just kind of automatically encode it in your brain as you're reading through it, and so I really liked that technique.
Yeah. Why did you choose these three colors in particular for the artist?
So when I was doing my research, I was looking at the Chartmetric website and just reading about, their CPP rank and kind of getting a better idea of how that's calculated. And as I was poking around their website, I found a report that had these three colors in them, and I really liked them. And I thought, well, they're great. I like these colors for, they're fun. I think they represent the music industry well. And so I ended up not reinventing the wheel and just going for it.
Yeah, it's great.
And then that kind of bluish gray background is the background color that all of the Chartmetric logos were on that we were provided with. So again, just
that's great.
Not gonna reinvent the wheel with this. Just
no. I noticed you, and I think maybe every finalist, or there's certainly several that created your own size legend. I wonder if at some point we should recognize that our users build their own size legends. Perhaps we need to redo ours.
Yeah, I think they just, the Tableau default one is fine, but I to, add a little bit more design element. We'll end up using their own.
Yeah.
Lisa, I'm really curious if you could tell us about the use of the pages shelf here. Is that something that you normally use in your day-to-day analysis?
No, so I have never used the pages shelf before in Tableau before this, but I think because it was kind of a time lapse, it lent itself really well as a good use case for it. But no, typically this is not something that I use, but I think I will be using a lot more from here on out.
It's really interesting. The page shelf is really good during the analytical exploration process. Often over the years, I might use the page shelf during my exploration, but not in the final output for something internal. But from a storytelling perspective, as you showed, it's just super, super powerful to bring data to life. Did anything go wrong during this build? Or did it all
No, I was convinced that something had, because I did this like a minute faster than I had ever done it in a single practice round. So I was convinced that I messed something up terribly, because I think my adrenaline was going so fast and everything. But yeah, I was convinced something had gone wrong, but I couldn't find anything. So I think it was all just that adrenaline.
There's one bit right at the end where you move an axis, which I want to talk about.
Yes.
Because we'll come to that in a minute. How was the experience? I'm hoping you'd recommend the Iron Viz to people. What would you say to people watching who maybe haven't entered Iron Viz yet?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it and encourage everyone to do it. I think I said this already. I had no intention of entering. I thought that this competition was for people who had much more technical ability than I did, or for Zen masters or ambassadors or anyone more established in the community. But then I saw that blog post by Sarah Bartlett, and she had kind of made some rounds in different presentations and said, everyone should enter this. It's a great learning opportunity. You're going to grow from it and connect with people in the community. And so I thought, you know what, why not? I had an idea for it. And so I thought, well, nothing bad is going to happen. So I might as well push myself to do it, and something great happened. So
yeah,
I highly recommend people who are kind of on the fence to do it, even if you don't want to compete in the finals. I would strongly suggest you just put yourself out there, because you're going to learn so much. I learned a ton of stuff, and I met a lot of really great people and made more connections in the community. So yes, highly recommend.
Yeah, fantastic. So so here we are. We're coming to the end, and I love just you've got that attention to detail. You were just adjusting the axes so that they're aligned on the left-hand side. Tableau's default is to make the axis fit to the unit, to the width of the text. And you're like, no, that horizontal, that vertical alignment has to be just right?
Yes.
Yeah. And that I see there. Yeah, we've got 18 minutes of the build, and you're pretty much done. Was there anything else left to do?
No. And again, I was so shocked at this point and scared. Presentation and something's not going to be right.
Yeah. I think an experience for anybody building a dashboard for Iron Viz, but also internally, is knowing when to stop. So as you were doing this build and you'd put yourself under pressure by throwing everything out with only a week to go, how, were you sitting there going, but I could do X, Y, and Z extra? How did you know when to stop?
I think it's always kind of hard to know when to stop. Having a supervisor, having Esther kind of help guide the process was also really beneficial, because she helped me edit a lot. The first time I did this, there was way more text. It was super text heavy, and she was like, you don't want that. So she helped me kind of rein it in some places. And then she's the one who actually encouraged the country level map. That wasn't there. Those middle charts for country weren't on design. And she's like, I think there's something missing. So she helped me kind of, she helped with the creation, she was
fantastic.
Do a country level chart. And I think it, in hindsight, it was like, well, yeah, why would I not show all 3 levels if they show us in the data? And I think it's just kind of a good way to cap everything off, and the whole.
There's a really important lesson there about understanding the mode of delivery for anything you build. So not just Iron Viz. So in the feeders, the Viz's people building the feeders are often quite text heavy, and sometimes too text heavy, but very text heavy, because you are not there to tell the story of your Viz. So since we judge people on storytelling, the text has to be there to tell the story. Whereas in Iron Viz, you are literally telling the story, right? So in that case, the form is different. And, I think customers sometimes, and users of Tableau and analysts, struggle with each form. If you're doing a presentation, you don't bring your business dashboard, you bring your presentation version, right? And so judging when to get that right is really important. Well, there we go. Lisa, there it is, the winning Tableau Iron Viz 2021 Viz. This way, how was it at the end? Was it just a sense of intense relief? Had it been a fairly stressful couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's a pretty stressful process. It's really fun too, but there is a lot of stress. There's a lot of time that goes into it. I was dreaming about Iron Viz. It was constantly on my mind. And then even after you finish, there's a period of time where you filmed and then you don't know what happened. And so a lot of time where, mentally I was just over analyzing everything that I did, thinking, oh, this wasn't right, I should have done it this way. So yeah, it was very mentally consuming there for a while. So there's a lot of relief now that it's over.
Yeah, that's great. Well, yeah, congratulations. Keshia, any more questions from you?
I've just got one little question I'm very curious about. You've got this great play button on the dashboard so you can play the songs. Did you know the songs before this dashboard that you built?
I think I knew maybe 2 of them. I'm not hip when it comes to music at all. I didn't even know any of these 3 artists' names. And it's funny because over the summer, we had a family get together, and my cousin is super into the music. She works at a record label. She's very hip to music. And she was like, oh, I'm going to put an Olivia Rodrigo song on. And I was like, who's that? And she looked at me like I lived under a rock. Like, how do you not know who that is? I was like, I don't know. I don't know artists. She's like, no, that's like really bad. You should know who that person is. So then when I got this data and I saw her name, I was like, oh, that's who my cousin was talking about. I definitely know who these 2 people are, but no, I didn't really know them before Iron Viz.
Excellent.
Great.
That's amazing. Right. Well, look, Lisa, any last advice or tips you give to people who are on the journey, or beginning with Tableau, whether on the data farm or in business?
Yeah, I would say, it's really scary to put yourself and your work out there at first, or even now, but like I said before, only good things are going to come of it. You know, the data fam is incredibly supportive and they only want you to do well. I think, you know, when one of us does well, it pushes everyone else to get better too. So everyone's super supportive. I would definitely encourage you all to get out there, put your work out there and start getting feedback, because as soon as I did, that's when I started seeing myself grow and enhance my skills immensely.
All right, amazing. All right, wow, Lisa, thank you so much for taking us through the build. Really great to hear the thought process, the challenges, the excitement, and the opportunities. We loved seeing what you did in Iron Viz, and it's been really valuable getting this insight today. And everybody watching, we have got Sam and Pradeep on the way as well. All 3 episodes are pretty much available now. So do go and check out the other finalists' build. And we'll see you in the feeder competition for next year's Iron Viz, because win or learn, you can't lose. It's a great opportunity for growth. So Keshia, thanks for being with me today. Lisa, congratulations. Thank you so much. And everybody else, that's been If Data Could Talk. We'll see you next time. Take care.